Alrighty. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you find yourself today. It's another beautiful day, and we're here one more time to analyze this. Let's analyze this. And my name is Nana Osei Bonsu Jr. of African National Organization and Certo Leadership International. Today, we're going to continue where we left off last weekend, last Saturday, when we brought a few issues up on Analyze This. We discuss issues that are taking place in Ghana, current affairs, so to speak. And we share a little opinion and how best we can learn from each other to foster that unity and the upliftment and work together for the betterment of our nation and our continent, Africa. On this platform, we don't entertain insults because we don't believe insult solves problems. We're here to solve problems. We're here to find solution to the myriad of problems facing the African continent. So we don't entertain insult on this platform. However, we entertain divergent opinions. If you have a dissenting opinion, you can table it respectfully and we will dissect it and discuss it and learn from each other. We don't believe to have all the answers on this platform. We believe that together we can share ideas, we can discuss, learn from each other, and be better to better our environment and our continent at large. I want to take this opportunity to apologize for what happened last week. Some unscrupulous personalities decided to do some crazy on our platform. They got in and messed us up, so we had to shut the whole thing down and start all over again. So we want to apologize those of you who saw the crazy videos that was posted on our platform by some unscrupulous beings. We really apologize for that, and we have taken measures to curtail the hijack. So moving forward, we don't put the whatchamacallit, the link up for just anybody to be a part of it. When we put the link up and you want to be a part of it, you would you'll be admitted into what we call the waiting room for our behind the scenes people to get you on the platform. So that's the measure we've taken. So if anybody hitherto was getting direct access to the platform and the discussion moving forward, it's not going to happen that way. You got to be in the waiting room for you to be ushered into or be permitted to get on the platform for our usual discussions. Finally, as we always say, that creativity and inventions are not by the color of one's skin, but by an educated mind. Creativity and inventions are not by the color of one's skin, but by an educated mind. So educate yourself, educate your mind, illuminate your mind, feed your mind, exercise your mind, and let your mind produce. Let your mind be creative. Allow your mind to be inventive. So you would be of importance, or you would be of impact to your generation and your community as a whole. So we just want to encourage ourselves to understand that creativity is not by the color of one's skin. When you see anything amazing, anything creative, anything um, mind blowing, it is not by the color of a skin, but by an educated mind. So let us all educate ourselves and let us all be creative and be inventive. Alrighty. So I believe last week we started talking about Dr. Mensa Odebel's message um, on the fate of the charismatic church in Africa as a whole. I believe he was talking to a group of um, pastors in a different church. I want to believe it. It probably might be Eastwood Anaba's church where he was making that presentation. And we on this platform applauded him, and we want to believe that it's not going to be the end, um, just one time thing, but he's going to keep coming with more of such warnings, especially to the church. Um, and also, one sec. Yeah, sorry about that. As I said, we applauded him on this platform, and we want to encourage other pastors who have seen what he has seen to also come out and add their voices to his voice and echo the sound of warning and broaden and deepen that sound or that call, that warning to the church in Africa, because a lot of crazy stuff happening, a lot of crazy stuff happening. And as he said, rightly, it looks as if the name pastor or a prophet is mentioned, it looks like it connotes a con man because of what we are seeing and what we've seen for some time now, and I believe that it's in the right direction. That call by Dr. Manson Odebel is in the right direction, and we want to encourage more pastors who believe in the vision of building the church in Africa to add their voices to his call. With that being said, I want to link that to the accident that happened in the course of the past few weeks, um, where Bishop Elijah Amwakon, Salifu Amwakon, I believe, son had an accident when he was over speeding, and he got into an accident and killed two beautiful girls. Our hearts go out to the family, and our condolences to the family. We pray that they would be encouraged, that they would be strengthened, they would be sustained throughout this period of pain. It's something that's probably going to live with them the rest of their lives, and we want to stand with them, and we want to pray with them and ask that God would comfort the family and help them through this difficult moment. As I always say, the time does not heal the wounds, but time will give you the opportunity to reevaluate and assess yourself and think through the issues and strengthen yourself to be able to deal with your loss. And we hope that they would be seen through this hard and difficult moment, because it is not easy, especially the process by which the kids lost their lives. But that comes back to the issue of parenting. Um, I heard some submissions from various quarters, and I want to add my 2 cents to the issue of parenting. It is very important we understand that. I want to use, since that's a pastor's kid, I would quote scripture um, from the Bible, which says that train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he would not depart from it. I hear some arguments or submissions being made by some people claiming that sometimes you are lucky to be blessed with a good child by God. But I beg to differ. I beg to differ. Nobody, nobody, and I want to emphasize nobody gets that lucky to be blessed with a good child. But I want to believe that everybody is blessed with a good child. Everybody gets blessed with a good child. When you have a child, that child is good. That child needs parenting in order to unveil and to release that which is hidden in that child, to be able to have a deeper understanding of his or her life and begin to work on what gifts the child has to fulfill his or her purpose on earth. So every parent is blessed with a good child, but the problem is parenting. There's no blueprint, some people would say, for parenting, but I believe that there is. Again, I beg to differ. The blueprint is teaching the principles of your child what is right. Um, you would always be right if you do what is right. I know kids might go wayward. Every kid would do something that would not be in line with what he or she is being taught. But if you raise a child right, um, those values and principles are always ringing at the back of his head. It rings in your head. I know what I'm talking about because I happen to be there before. When all the values and all the principles, all the training you received get tossed out of the window, but you think you're at liberty, you're free to do whatever you want to do, and then at a point in time, in the midst of you being crazy or you not aligning yourself with the values and the principles you've been uh, that has been imbibed into you, you hear that voice at the back of your head. You hear it behind you every time, and it's within your heart, and it will steer you gradually from waywardness into the right path. So I want to believe there's a blueprint. The blueprint is teaching your child the principles to do what is right. What is right, it's always defined by truth. What is right is always defined by law. I always say that this world, it's operating on laws. Everything in the world is operating on laws. Everything you can think about, think of anything, it operates with laws or by laws or with or on laws. whatever way you want to look at it. And so if you want to be successful in whichever way, you would have to find those laws and execute those laws. You cannot violate the laws and be successful. So if you tell me there are no blueprints, it's hard for me to swallow because I believe that there are laws, and those laws happens to be the blueprint by which we live our lives. One of the things I've come to understand, I broke it down in my second book, Training involves three I's, what I call illustrate, imbibe, and then instruct. So if you are training your children, you illustrate to the children. So in other words, you live the life you want them to live. The principles you're teaching them, it has to come from you. You have to exemplify that principle. You would have to live that principle. You don't teach them something else and do something else. If you do that, it's not going to work. Your training will fall short, and they are going to find their own way because they would look up to you for a direction. They look up to you for reflection. So whatever you tell the kids not to do, I always tell my kids, if I tell you to do something and I'm not doing it, bring it to my attention. Yes, call me out on it. Because you know what? You cannot train a child. That's a beautiful soul given to you. That is a good soul given to you. And you are molding the soul to identify his or her place in this world and to be able to live their purpose. So you cannot conflict them. You cannot create that confusion in their minds. You get to do what you tell them is right. So you have to illustrate the training you want to give to your kid. You have to illustrate it to them. And then number two, you have to imbibe that the principles into them. So you talk to them, you explain to them issues. You need to have a conversation with your children. You need to have a conversation with your children. I know most people would say the pastor's kids always go wayward. Um, because the pastors don't have time for their kids. They are preoccupied with ministry and they don't have time for their kids. I'm sorry, but this is gonna be harsh. I know this topic is a hot one, but this is gonna be harsh. If you cannot take care of your family, if you cannot take care of your children, you have no business taking care of the church because it's in the Bible. It's in the Bible. If you read your Bible well, you would understand and you would know that if you cannot take care of your family, if you cannot take care of your children, the nuclear of family that you are the head of, if you cannot be in charge, if you cannot train them, then you have no business um, being a pastor, head in a flock, um, 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 being the one to train people for progress in life, or for living the righteous life. Let me put it that way. So I believe that it's incumbent on all pastors. It's incumbent on everybody who has chosen to be a pastor, who's called to be a pastor, to understand that their first responsibility is their primary responsibility. It is to their nuclear family. That is your primary responsibility. You are a pastor of your family. So you got to start the teaching, the illustrating, the illustration, sorry, uh, um, and the imbibing of the word of God, the imbibing of the values, the principles of life into your children. That is your primary responsibility before your ministry. We got to understand, if you're a pastor, if you're called and if you desire to do the work of a pastor, you have to understand your primary responsibility is to your family. I get sad when I hear people saying we we pastors don't have time for our family. You got to make that time. You got to make that time. It's not an excuse. So if you failed, you failed. And for me, if you cannot take care of your nuclear family, then I don't see how you're going to be able to take care of the bigger picture. That is why we have all this craziness going on in the church today. So we have to make sure that we do the right thing. Again, when we're reading the scriptures or we're reading the Bible, we have to read it right. You cannot read the Bible and tell me that you have an excuse for not raising your kids right because you are preoccupied with ministry. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And the last I made mention of illustration in Bible. The last I is going to be instructing your children. If you imbibe, if you illustrate, you imbibe, you have to instruct them to be able to practice what you are preaching to them, to be able to practice what you're telling them to do. So I believe that if we really want to look at the whole perspective or the whole issue of training, we should be able to call a spade a spade. Let us not play around and cut corners. Let's call a spade a spade. If you are unable to train your children, you should be man enough to own up to the fact that you have failed. I know it's pretty harsh. I'm not saying that I'm a perfect father. Nobody is perfect. We are all learning. We're all um, on a path to to make or to fulfill our purpose and our responsibilities as parents. But we have to eventually assess our lives. Sometimes we have to assess our what you call it, the values and the principles we are trying to teach our children. We need to put them under microscope and assess it. So if you are a pastor and honestly speaking, you are not able to take care of your responsibilities at home, I don't see that being an excuse, using that as clutches when it comes to light, what your children are doing or what your child has done. Your first responsibility is to your children. It's plain and simple as that. Because if you cannot take care of your nuclear family, you should not. You have no business being a pastor. That is my take on that. And so we want to encourage um, Bishop Amwakon to sit back and evaluate his parenting skills and take a critical look at how he is training his children or his child. I don't know how many children he's got, but training his child and make sure that he impacts the right values and the right principles into that child. Because if you tell me you believe, or you're a pastor and you believe in the Bible, and the Bible says train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old he would not, he did not say he may not depart from it. He says he would not depart from it. In other words, if you do the training right, the child would not depart from it. I know it's harsh, but it's that is the reality. If you do the training right, the child will not depart from it. So let's get this straight. Without much ado, I would want Prof to come in with his 2 cents. Today we have a very short time, so Prof.
Yeah. Um, Good afternoon, and I'm sorry I'm late.
That's okay. I
Uh,
understand.
I'm still in the stores. I even forgot the time. able to share you.
No problem. You can make your contribution, your submissions, and we would be running up real quick because I've been called to another duty right now. So
Yeah. What I would want to say is that you remember last week I was saying the pastor has no business apologizing.
right, right,
That is going to be my main take because subsequent events tell me he has no remorse for the way he trained his child. You
mm,
know, the boy is a 16, allegedly is a 16-year-old. Our laws do not allow a 16-year-old to be driving.
right,
And the way that boy was driving, I'm going to reiterate that he was driving like somebody who has been driving for a long time.
right,
And what other people have posted is that he has been driving and he has been posting on Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that. So the father knew. And if the father didn't know, it was his responsibility to know
right.
because it is his or it is the family's call. So it is his responsibility to know. And I will come back to the issue that the law enforcement agencies should allow the lawsuit. They should not be respecters of persons. And the fact that this man can brag about him not being able to be stopped by the police and all that, that is the main reason I'm saying he had no business uh, apologizing. I'm not
Right.
going to look at him as a pastor. I'm going to look at him as a citizen of the Republic of Ghana, and that it is his responsibility to raise his case. My English teacher used to say that the freedom to throw up your hands ends where my nose begins. Well, he's been driving around with no consequences. Now he's killed two people. It's manslaughter. It might not be murder, but it is manslaughter,
Right.
and the law should deal with it. That's going to be. Thank you.
Yes, it is manslaughter, and the laws should deal with him. Um, I believe that the laws of Ghana are going to work. Again, I want to go back and say this briefly before we jump over to the next topic, which we're going to wrap up on. Um, you see, as I said from the beginning, the world is made up of laws. You either learn to obey them voluntarily or you're going to be forced to obey them. Because when you violate a law, guess what? Another law will force you to obey the law. So that is why we need to teach our children the laws of the world, the laws of life, the principles of life. So we would imbibe those laws into them so they would voluntarily learn and make those laws theirs and live by those laws. Because when you violate a law, you'll be forced by an authority to obey a law. So it's either we imbibe those values into them and help them to cultivate those values and those laws so they can freely live their lives as productive citizens, or they'll go out there and violate the laws and they're going to be forced to obey the law. It's as simple as that. We got to remember that the world is made up of laws. If you want to be a good citizen, if you want to live a righteous life, you got to live by laws. All right. The next one is, like I said the other time, Ghana football. I listened to Dan Kwekuyeboah the other time, being interviewed by KSM, and I want to believe the guy has all the answers to the problems facing Ghana football. But who is listening? Because I listened to him. This is the first time I listened to um, a submission made by somebody on Ghana soccer or football, and I was so impressed by the depth of his knowledge, the understanding of the politics and the dynamics of the sports in Ghana. And I was wondering, why is this person's brain or his intelligence or his knowledge is not being tapped by the authorities to help fix the myriad of problems facing the national sports is authority or council or whatever it is. Um, we again, I want to go back to what I keep saying. We don't live life by chance. We live life by planning. And when you listen to Dan Kwekwe, boy, it looks as if the investment that was made in Ghana soccer some years back has waned up. Yep, it's waned off. So you're not gonna get any more returns. What you're gonna get is the worst because you have no more investments made. We're not investing in the game. We're not investing in the players. We're not investing in anything. We don't groom. We don't train. We don't prepare a team, and yet we expect to win matches. I don't know. Maybe those of you who understand soccer better than I do can explain to me, or who understand the dynamics of the sports, or the sporting events in Ghana can explain better to me, because I was doing a little bit of research, and I got to understand that the Sudanese team was picked up by the Ghanaian coach, and he was able to train, prepare, groom. You see, and Ghana was still probably floating on their past glories, thinking, "Oh, that's Sudan. We can whip them. We can lash them," you know. But it doesn't work like that. One of the principles I walk by in life is that life is about preparation and execution. If you don't prepare, you're not going to execute. Period. All right, Prof, your turn. Prof, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. I was a soccer player in high school.
Mm,
Growing up, I saw the soccer scene in Ghana. Oh, everybody who knew Ohinijan knew that he had a very long plan, and those that subsequently came benefited from the plans of Ohinijan.
right.
And Dan Kwakuyeboah is really steep in
Mm,
Ghana soccer. About 4 years ago, I listened to one of his interviews. That lady in, I think she's in New York, that does interviews in course. He interviewed him, and
okay.
he predicted this is going to be our lot. Dan Kwakuyeboah predicted that nothing is going to change and that we are not going to win
Mm,
in the future because the investments that have to be put in place to make us win is not being done. And other African countries, soccer is not just sports today. It's business. It brings teams a whole lot of money back into the African continent for
mm,
those who understand. Senegal, Tunisia, even Nigeria and Ivory Coast, they are reaping the benefits of the investment that they have made. In 2015, I went to the Kumasi Sports Stadium, Babayara Sports
mm,
Stadium, and my first impression was that I am not coming because even the pitch on which they are playing was bad at that time. I'm talking about a tropical country that cannot grow grass. Doesn't make any sense at all to me. They don't care. They think they can just, I don't know. We are steeped in thinking that we can benefit from not investing and that God is Ghanaian and that God plays soccer on our behalf or whatever it is. I don't know. But the point is, we are not going to win. I stopped watching Black Stars after the debacle in Brazil because I knew it was going to continue. So, Nana, we can decide to do the right thing, or we can decide to continue to belabor the point. But if you do not invest in anything, it will not reap any benefits for you. And I'm talking about long-term investment, like 20, 30 years plan to make soccer as important. We only pay lip service. Do you know how much money they claim they have used to repair the pitch? You'll be shocked. And the pitches, they were not repaired. And FIFA is now telling us that we did not uh, do the right thing. So left to me alone, those amounts of money should be retrieved from whoever is supposed to be the contractors that are supposed to have, because they did nothing on the pitch.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. And that's why FIFA banned us. So as for winning, we should forget about it. It's not going to happen in the next 5 years. We should think from 10 to 20 to 30 years from now. Senegal have done it. Nigeria is doing it. Tunisia is my example. Whoever gets signed out to go outside has a percentage that goes into the federation, and they use it to rebuild the infrastructure for the future generation.
Mm.
Now, look, listening to what Dan Kwaku said in this particular interview, I've not listened to it, but the
Mm.
interview about 4 years ago, he said that the funding for the Premier League should come from the government and should go directly to every player that has been signed to the Premier League. It should not even go to the clubs, because he knows the club managers, they are only interested in their parochial interest.
Mm.
And that anytime any individual was signed to a club, they should give him a minimum of 4 years to play in the Premier League. He cannot leave.
Mm.
And that will elevate the Premier League so that even when we need people for the Black Stars, we can pick some from the Premier League. And this
Right.
made sense to me, because every Black Stars team that have won anything was made possible by a group of local stars with a group of so-called international. It
Right.
was not primarily international stars, who some of them have no allegiance to Ghana. I will keep on saying this. We are very good at somebody makes his investment and then we go and pick it. A lot of these players that are born outside Ghana, they don't have any personal attachment to Ghana. The only
Mm.
reason why they play for the Black Stars, if I may say, is because they were not selected by their respective national teams. We can sit here and belabor the point, but the point is those that were really, really good, except Abedi's children who consider themselves Ghanaian. A lot of these players that were born outside Ghana that have never been to Ghana, they don't play for Ghana. They only play for us when they don't get chosen by their respective teams.
Mm.
So yes, if you want to reap that, that's okay. And we are not reaping any benefits from them. Anyway, this is an emotional issue for me, because you keep saying it, and then we keep on doing exactly the same thing. Why is the GFA leadership still even in existence? For what? What do they do? You tell me. For the past 5 years, what have any of our national teams achieved? Nothing. So we can go back to the drawing board, go back to the Ohinijan years, and look at what he did and try to better it, or we can sit here and play an system with our national team. That's up to us. But that's my take. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. That's about it for today. Thank you so much for paying attention to us today. We want to thank you for your time and your investment. We will close the curtains today, and we'll be here next week, same time. My name, Nana Osei Bonsu Jr., and my co-hosts.
Nam Kojo Washington. Thanks for listening. We'll do better next
Yes, sir. All righty. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye.